What's up, guys, and welcome back to the Tiebreak Pod. I am joined today. I'm super excited to have Javier all the way from Madrid. So, Javier, do you want to go ahead and kind of introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello. Thanks for the invitation, Christian. It's very, uh, it's very good for me to be here. It's a pleasure for me to be here, and I'm gonna enjoy it for sure.
I'm super excited. It's been too long since we've seen each other. I know back when you were um, doing your exchange studies here in, I guess, over in Georgia, right?
Yeah, that's true. In Newland.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah. Well, I know you mentioned that you were able to be a ball boy back at the Madrid Open, and I kind of want to dive into your experience with the
Yeah,
game of tennis. Obviously, you got to do that, which is awesome. I'm sure that was a lot of fun. And you played a little bit, right?
yeah, yeah. I played a lot here in Madrid in a tennis club called Club de Campo, Villa de Madrid. That is where I learned and where I started to play tennis. And but the time that I played tennis the most is when I was there in Newnan in Georgia, in East Cowira High School. I played for the tennis team, and it was very nice to play there with all the teammates and stuff. It was
Yeah.
a great experience.
Well, that's awesome. So who did you get the ball boy for? Were there any big names at the Madrid
Yeah,
Open?
yeah, for sure. It was the biggest for Berdych, Thomas Berdych. I don't know if you
Yeah.
remember him. Yeah, and Songa too. French player,
Yes.
very good player. I was in a doubles game, and it was amazing. And I have a good, well, a good story to tell about this. Is that I used to be in remember well in all the Madrid in the tennis in the Madrid, um, in all the places, and I was in the when they when where they train. And I remember Nadal used to train once or twice a day. He used to train a lot. And Roger Federer, he never trained for real. He went to the game just without training. And that's something I can tell you because I've seen that for 2 or 3 years. Federer doesn't train a lot. I mean, Nadal trains once or twice a day when he's in the Madrid Open. And Federer, he used to go to the games without training. And that's something I was very, I don't know, that's something very curious for me. Like, I don't know, he doesn't train a lot. He is just pure talent.
Yeah, he is very naturally gifted with a tennis racket.
Yeah,
Um, and I think that's part of, I mean, obviously we saw Nadal be arguably without a doubt, actually, the greatest Spanish tennis player of all time. And he was so dominant on the clay, like they have at Madrid. And of
yeah,
course,
that's
we
true.
know at the French Open at Roland Garros how good he was there.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, that work rate is insane. So I
yeah,
love to hear that. And I know there's another good group of Spanish players coming up, obviously headlined by Carlos Alcaraz. But I know we've talked a little bit about Rafa Hodder.
yeah.
Um, and I know there's a couple others, so I kind of want to dive into that and hear what you think as.
Yeah, for sure. Well, one thing I find really interesting is how Spain continues to produce top level talent generation after generation. You know, for years, Spanish tennis had a very specific identity. When people thought about Spanish players, they thought about clay courts, long rallies, heavy topspin, and defensive tennis. That was basically the image created during the Rafael Nadal era. But I think the new generation of Spanish players looks completely different. Obviously, Carlos Alcaraz is the main example. He still has the intensity and mentality that Spanish tennis is famous for, but he's much more explosive and aggressive. He's comfortable attacking, coming forward, improvising, and playing on every surface. He's not just a clay court player like Nadal, you know.
Hmm.
He can dominate on hard court, grass, basically anywhere. And what is interesting is that younger Spanish players coming through now seem influenced by that mentality. You know, players like Martin Landaluce or Rafa Joder look much more modern like this. You know, they are bigger hitters, more offensive minded, and more comfortable playing fast paced tennis than previous Spanish generations. You know, I think Alcaraz changed the mentality of young Spanish tennis players before maybe the dream was becoming the next great clay court specialist. You know, now the
Yeah.
dream is becoming a completely all surface superstar. And you know, honestly, Spain might be entering another golden era because even after Nadal, who is the greatest Spanish athlete ever, the system continues producing elite talent. You know, that says a lot about the culture of tennis in Spain for sure. And the interesting debate now is whether this new generation might actually become more complete overall than previous Spanish generations. You know, the old Spanish style was incredible effective, but modern tennis rewards aggression and versatility much more than before. And these younger Spanish players seem built for the modern game. So Rafa Nadal and Martin Landaluce are impressive for me.
I completely agree. I do think that seeing them be more complete and not just dominating on one surface, and I think the Spanish players have shown that a lot. I think
Yeah,
we've seen that with some others. A notable Italian, Yannick Sinner, he has
yeah,
really stepped up his clay court. But I want to talk about Carlos Alcaraz, and it was something that Nadal definitely dealt with later in his career, but he's had some injury issues. And is
yeah.
that going to hinder him moving forward? Do you think that could slow down at least his part that he plays of this new golden generation of Spanish tennis players?
Yeah. Well, this is becoming a real conversation in tennis. Every time Alcaraz has physical problems or misses tournaments, people immediately start asking the same question: is he injury prone? Well, personally, I think it's still too early to label him that way, you know, because he's very young. But I also understand why people are starting to ask the question. The reality is that his style of tennis is invaluable physical. He plays every point at maximum intensity. His movement is explosive. He changes direction constantly. He slides on every surface and puts huge stress on his body every single match. So the thing is that style is incredible to watch. It's one of the reasons fans love him so much. He brings energy and intensity that almost nobody else has. But at the same time, it probably creates more wear and tear than a more controlled style, you know. The
Hmm.
obvious comparison is Rafael Nadal. Nadal also played with insane physical intensity for his entire career, and injuries were constantly part of the conversation. Despite of all of that, he still built one of the greatest careers in sports history. But there's another comparison that's interesting. Novak Djokovic. Djokovic always moved incredibly well, but his game feels more efficient physical. He doesn't look like he's destroying his body every point, you know? That efficiency probably helped him sustain success for so long. And there is Yannick Sinner. This is where the rivalry becomes really interesting because when both players are healthy, many people believe Alcaraz has the higher peak level. His creativity and explosiveness can overwhelm anybody, but Sinner might have the more sustainable style over an entire season, you know? His mechanics look smoother, his ball striking is cleaner and more controlled, and his game looks less chaotic. And consistency matters massively in modern tennis. If Alcaraz misses tournaments and Sinner stays healthy, suddenly Sinner keeps taking ranking points, titles, and momentum. Over time, that becomes a huge advantage. So that's what I think that's the real difference. So the real debate might not even be who is better at their absolute best. The real debate could become whose body holds up better over the next 10 years. You know, that's
I
the real.
agree. I
Yeah,
completely agree. It is getting to that, and I like the comparison to Novak Djokovic. He has been the gold standard for longevity
that's it.
in our sport, um, taking care of his body, the consistency of health. essentially.
Yeah.
And I did want to also bring up Juan Martin Del Potro. He dealt with wrist injuries, and that really and the wrist is obviously a very important
Yeah.
piece. You're using it for every single shot. Compared to if it's your left arm and you're a right hander,
Yeah.
okay, you're using it on backhand. You're not using it as much on your serve. On your forehand, obviously, you'd be right-handed. So, and that does worry me a little bit because I think this Sinner Alcaraz rivalry has been so entertaining, and they've become the big two. I mean,
Yeah.
they're like pre Djokovic, Federer, and Nadal. And I think if when they're both healthy, they provide the highest level of tennis we're able to see.
We will
Um,
see.
Always great to see them meet in finals of tournaments of majors. And so I hope that he does get healthy and continues to be able to play at his peak level
Yeah.
because it's exciting.
For sure. Yeah, I think Del Potro was an amazing player, but injuries, well, passed him for sure. So we will see. We will see.
We will. That we will. Um, well, I think next I'd love to talk about Rafa Nadal a little more. I mean,
Okay.
he made his Grand Slam debut in the Australian Open this year.
Yeah.
He got to the quarterfinals, both at Rome and Madrid. And I mean, he's won, I think it was an ATP 250 tournament recently.
Yeah.
So he's super exciting. I know you got to see him in person, right?
Yeah, I see
At
him.
Madrid?
I've seen him in person for sure in Madrid, in the game before Sinner, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, against the Fonseca, and it was a great game. 3 sets. Joao Fonseca is another great player. He's a Brazilian, and it's a young generation too. And he it was a very well, a very difficult game for Hodar for sure. But Hodar played his best tennis that day, and he beat him. And yeah, it was an amazing game for sure.
Well, that's awesome. It's always great to see tennis in person.
Yeah,
I've gotten to see, I mean, it's always fun to watch even college tennis here. The
yeah,
level is so much higher than anything that I ever played in.
yeah,
But I got to go see the Davis Cup and see the USA men's team against the Switzerland
yeah,
men's team back probably 10 years ago now. And it's just very, it always blows my mind how good these people are.
yeah, for sure.
Um, well, talking about Hodar, what do you think? I mean, have you looked at his draw at all at the French Open and who he might be coming up against?
I don't know really well. Time will decide what he will do in the French Open, but I'm sure he's gonna make a great tournament because he's a very complete player. Uh, 6 months ago he was not in the top 100. He was just not even he was starting his professional career, and because 2 years ago I think he was playing in Virginia, in the Virginia College.
Hmm.
um you know I don't
Yeah, I
know
don't
if
know
it
if he
was
ended up
Virginia.
playing for them, but he had
Yeah,
committed to him.
but for sure he's one of the next generations. And well, not the next generations, he's already the present, but I think at the end of this year he will be top 10 for sure.
Top
that,
10. That could be. That
that's my
means that
bet.
he's going to be very exciting to watch. Then he is playing an American. He is seated in the French Open. I want to say it was number 27, but he is playing Kovacevic, Alexander Kovacevic, the United States player. So that'll be fun to watch, and I think he has a good at least a good first round, possibly first 2 or 3 rounds where he could make some noise and hopefully make. I'd love to see him get to the quarterfinals and play on the big stage.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
And who was the other Spanish player you wanted to talk about?
The other Spanish player is called Martín Landaluce. He's from the same tennis club as Rafa Nadal. He's
Okay.
he's 19 years old too. He's from Madrid too. And well, his play is a little bit different than Rafa Hodar. He's not too that aggressive, but I like him too. I think right now he's maybe number 60, top 60 or something like that. He scaled up a lot these months. He made quarterfinals on Rome too, and well, he's for sure a new next generation Spanish player, 100%.
All right. Well, that's awesome. I will say he does have a qualifier that he is playing in his first round matchup. He could end up playing Mutet,
Yeah.
and if he gets through them, then more than likely he'd be playing Yannick Sinner. So that would be a very exciting to really
Wow.
test his level against the
Yeah,
best
yeah, for sure, for sure.
at a Grand Slam. So
We will
I'm
see.
super excited about that.
Yep.
Um, well, man, I want to hear what do you think? What do you think we're going to see happen at the French Open this year? Let's go on the men's side.
Yeah. Well, with I think we're going to see a great tournament, very aggressive and competitive for sure. I think without Carlos Alcaraz, maybe it doesn't make a little bit of nonsense, you know. Without Alcaraz, for me, it's not the same. But we'll see what Rafa Hodar can do, and what I think probably Yannick Sinner will win. That's my bet. But honestly, I think Rafa Hodar is gonna do. He's gonna do a great tournament, and he might go through semifinals or maybe the final. I don't know, but that's my bet. I don't know.
You thinking Hodar is making it that far? Is that what you said? Or
I think so. Yeah.
I would love to see that. That would
Yeah. Yeah.
be
Yeah.
that would be a great tournament. Well, I want to disagree with you here.
Why?
Um, I think on who's going to win. I think Alexander Zverev. He's going to break through. I think with an aging Novak. I think with no Carlos. Um, and I think whenever he does meet Sinner, more than likely at the French Open, I think he's going to be able to get over the hump and win a major. He's been close. He's played in three Slam finals. Actually, 2 years ago at the French Open. I think his game suits the clay courts well. And he had that awful, awful injury against Rafa Nadal. I think it was 2023, 2022 in the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
When, I mean, just tore up his ankle, which was awful to see, but he had been playing phenomenal.
Yeah. I think it was in Madrid, right?
I think it was at the French Open. I'm not 100% sure, though.
Oh, I
Pretty
thought it
certain it
was
was.
in Madrid, but maybe it was in the French Open. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I thought it was in
Um,
Madrid, but yeah.
yeah, so I hope that he can. I hope he can make it. It would be good to see someone other than Sinner win it. Obviously, I'd love to see Rafa Oder. Um, but I still, I'd love if he could do it. But I still think he will be. I think the experience of some of the older players
Yeah,
might take him out later in the tournament. But I'd love to be proven wrong.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We will see. We'll see what happens.
We will see. Um, and last thing on Carlos, he already withdrew from Wimbledon.
Yeah,
So does that worry you? Just that
yeah,
this is
yeah.
going to be a very big injury.
Well, it worries me a little bit because it seems to be a big injury for sure. It's not, it's not a thing that he only misses French Open and that's it. No, he misses Wimbledon too. And then, well, we'll see. I just, when these things happens, I just think about Rafa Nadal. You know, Nadal sometimes used to have heart injuries, and he used to be 1 year or half a year outside of the court, and then he came back amazing. You know, at very high level. So I think Alcaraz will do the same. Will he might he's gonna lose French Open and Wimbledon, but I think he will come back stronger and in a very good level. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, well, Sinner is chasing him right now to complete the career Grand Slam. If he
Yeah.
can win the French, then he will have equaled that, albeit at an older age. But yeah, I think the longer Alcaraz is out, I think the further along Sinner will get
No, that's for
in
sure.
terms of catching him with majors, just because there's no one else to challenge him consistently yet.
Yeah, yeah, that's for sure. That you're right. I mean, Sinner is gonna do a great tournament here in French Open and of course in Wimbledon, and probably he will win both. So without Alcaraz, Sinner has no competitivity. I think.
Yeah. Well, do you want to talk about the women's side at all? Do you keep up with the women's tennis
I don't
much?
keep up a lot. I like Sabalenka, but I don't keep up a lot. I don't follow just women. But if you want to talk a little bit, of course I'm able.
Um, yeah, I will definitely. I think compared to the men's, where we have a clear cut favorite with Sinner, I think on the women's side we have 8 players that could probably win the French Open and have a realistic shot.
Hmm?
Um, and just to kind of run through those, obviously Sabalenka, Rabakina, Iga, Coco Gauff. You could make arguments for the 2 Americans, 2 other Americans other than Coco with Pegula and
Yeah.
Anisimova. Svitolina, she's she just won her third career Rome title.
Yep.
She's I don't think she's ever actually even played in a Grand Slam championship match. So that would be she's one to keep an eye on. Uh, and I think Mira Andreeva is another one. She's young. She's a top player, and I don't know if you've kept up with anything around her, but
Not a lot. Yeah.
she has let her emotions. She wears her heart on her sleeve. She's an emotional player.
Okay.
That's something to use to fuel her, but also it can throw her out of rhythm. There were some clips of one of her tournaments walking off the court, yelling some obscenities at the crowd because they were against her. Which she's
Yeah.
19 years old. That's totally understandable. I was probably the same way, and I could not imagine playing in front of that many people.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be super exciting. We probably have 8 of the top 10 women could all realistically win, especially with Sabalenka having
Yeah.
just not being super in form recently. Not to say that she won't turn it on and catch fire, but she's been she looked unstoppable at the beginning of the year. But she lost out in Madrid, lost out in the Italian Open at Rome.
Yeah.
So I think at Rome was actually her like earliest elimination from a tournament in 2026. She'd always made it deep. So
Well, we will see. In the top players in the toughest moments is where they make their greatest shots and their greatest points. So we'll see what Sabalenka will do. I think it's her time.
exactly, exactly. And did you see? So kind of moving off from the women's tournament, did you see what Alexander Bublik said about doubles?
Yeah, I've heard something. Yeah.
Um, it was pretty funny. He was, and here's the quote here. because they're doubles players, it's not tennis, it's half tennis. If you can't play singles, you play doubles. If you can't play doubles, you play paddle. Very simple. And that was him doubling down actually from something else he said about talking about how doubles is just a joke. And I wanted to hear your thoughts on it. I think it's very fun to watch doubles, to play doubles. Part of that could be that maybe it's a little easier, but I just want to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, Alexander Bublik made comments basically saying doubles players don't really know how to play tennis, and obviously that created a huge reaction online. And honestly, this is such a good tennis debate because there is truth and exaggerations on both sides. Okay, from the singles perspective, I understand the argument. Singles
Hmm.
tennis requires extreme endurance, physicality, shot tolerance, and the ability to construct points alone for hours. It's the most prestigious side of the sport. It gets the most attention, the most prize money, and the biggest stars all focus mainly on singles. But at the same time, doubles is an incredible specialized discipline. Sorry. The reflex required are insane. Positioning at the net, communication, return, precision, anticipation, touch volleys. These are elite skills. And many top single players are actually not great doubles players because doubles require such specific instincts. So I think the bigger issue here is that tennis as a sport doesn't market doubles properly. A lot of
Hmm.
casuals barely know who top the doubles players are. Double matches are often scheduled poorly, and they don't get the same spotlight as singles. But if you actually watch high level doubles, it can be incredibly entertaining. The points are fast, chaotic, aggressive, and easy for casual fans to enjoy. So honestly, tennis might be underestimating doubles as an entertainment product. And I also think comments like Bublik's are actually good for the sport in a weird way. At least people are debating tennis. At least there is personality and controversy, you know? Because sometimes tennis can feel too polished and too media trained, you know?
Exactly. Exactly. It's good that it made the headlines and people are talking about it. Getting more eyes on it is always good. Um, I think, and I really liked what you said about a lot of singles players, top high level singles players, are not great doubles players. There's a different skill set. You have to be much more precise with where your serve placement is.
Yeah.
You have to have a much higher first serve percentage because your partner is typically right up there at the net and will be vulnerable if you're having to hit a much weaker second serve. Your returns, you're almost limited to half the court
Yeah.
because you have your partner up there. And then the communication. Always when we played in high school, one of my coach's favorite sayings for doubles was down the middle solves the riddle. If you hit it in the middle, one person's like, oh, that's my backhand. I should let the other one. The other
Yeah.
person, they might be thinking, oh, it's 6 inches over the middle line. That should be my partner's. And you would win a
Yeah.
lot of points just due to communication not being there.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
for
then the
sure.
reflexes. I mean, you see some crazy volley battles where you have both players on each side at the net, and it's just, I mean, you can't keep up almost.
Yeah, 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 for sure.
So that's, and then I know when I was talking about my some newcomers outside of the top 30 young players coming up, obviously I brought up Rafa Hodder
Yeah.
on the men's side, but on the women's side, I actually brought up a very good doubles player who's been making the making the rounds in singles, and that's Maya Joint. She's 20 years old. She's Australian, but she was born in Michigan.
Okay.
She had been an American, of course, but she's played a lot of doubles. She was in the top, let's say top 30, top 40 ranked doubles player in the world,
Wow.
and she's been hanging out around number 30 in singles as well. Her first pro tournament, I mean, it was probably 6 years ago,
Yeah.
5 or 6 years ago. She was 14 years old playing in a professional tournament.
Yeah.
So She's won a few doubles titles, and I've loved to see how that game, how the doubles game is translated a little bit into her singles game. So it's
Yeah,
good. It's always good to have controversy, you know.
for sure, for sure.
And I do wonder if it will either get some more eyes on the doubles or get the scheduling to be a little smarter with where the doubles are slotting in for TV and on court, just to have more eyes on it. Um, and yeah, no, there's some people who just they don't like Alexander Bublik,
Yeah,
and so they're gonna argue against him, which means they're arguing for doubles, even though some of them may have watched half a match maximum in their life. So,
yeah, that's normal.
um, but yeah, that was something I wanted to touch on because I thought it was pretty interesting.
Yep.
Well, Javier, you got anything else you want to talk about? That was about everything that I wanted to cover today.
No, I think it's been an amazing debate. I think thank you so much for the invitation. It was amazing. Yeah, for sure. We'll have some more talks, I think.
I hope so. This has been awesome. It's been great to talk with you about the great sport of tennis and um, get your opinion, especially on some of the Spanish players. Um, hey, one thing I also wanted to ask you
Tell me.
with the Rafa Nadal Academy,
Oh, yeah.
how I meant to touch on that earlier, but has that been instrumental in growing the modern game with the Spanish players? Like I'm not super familiar with it. I just really know of it, so I don't know
Well,
how much you know of it.
I think he's trying to, but well, he's still training people, especially Spanish players. But I've been there in the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca because I used to spend summer in Mallorca and I wanted to go. And he has a museum, an amazing museum there with all his French Open trophies and everything. It's an amazing museum. I recommend it to you if you are invited to come to Mallorca whenever you want to my house, and so we can go to to the Rafa Nadal Museum and the Rafa Nadal Academy. It's a great place to visit for sure, and I enjoy a lot. Yeah, yeah,
Awesome. Now I will have to take you up on that offer sometime. I'll need to try to plan it around the Madrid Open, so maybe we can make a full week out of it.
yeah, 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 for sure.
Alrighty, well, Javier, thank you so much for joining me. This has been fantastic, and I hope you have a great rest of your Saturday. I know it's about to be what 7 p.m. there.
Yeah, around.
Alrighty, well, thank you so much, Javier.
Thank you so much, Christian.
All right, check us out on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, or wherever you get your podcast, and we'll catch you on the next one.